When I was a boy, some time ago, I went to church every single Sunday. And church took all morning. We went to Sunday school, my sister and I, for an hour, and then sat through the worship service. In Sunday school, I learned dozens of stories from both the Hebrew and the Christian scriptures, though we did not call them that. And what amazing stories they were, too. I learned about Moses parting the Red Sea. I heard about Samson and Delilah. That was kind of risque. And I remember being horrified at the story of Abraham almost sacrificing Isaac. For those of you who don't read the scriptures much, you can look these up. These are real stories that are in there. I learned about Jesus turning water into wine, walking on water, raising Lazarus from the dead. I was taught about the Apostle Peter denying that he ever knew Jesus. And by the time I was in high school, I'd heard the stories over and over. And I could recite whole stretches of Scripture from, of course, the King James translation. Now, my family was probably more diligent about attending church than most families. And I knew some people who didn't go to church very often at all. And yet, looking back, I can't remember anyone in my circle of family or friends who did not claim some sort of religious identity. Now, I grew up in San Antonio, Texas. So there were lots of Catholics. But among my friends, there were Lutherans, Baptists, Methodists, Presbyterians, Episcopalians, and a couple of Mormons. Heck, in sixth grade, I even met a Jewish kid, and I thought he was pretty exotic, because to my knowledge, he was the first Jewish kid I'd ever met. Now, I went off to college in California in 1964. And when I did that, the picture was pretty much the same. While a lot of us lost our religion in college, and actually, for those of you who can remember, losing your religion in college in the 60s was kind of a rite of passage. All of my friends arrived at college with some sort of religious identity. Today, all of that is changing at a stunning pace. The American religious culture that I have known for virtually all of my life is disintegrating. We live in a new world. It's the kind of rapid change that we have not seen since the Reformation. And the implications for us Unitarian Universalists are profound and of historic significance. I want to run a few statistics by you to give you a sense of how rapidly historic patterns are crumbling. Now, when I went off to college in the 60s, only 5% of young adults said that they had no religious identity. In other words, 19 out of 20 young adults at least claim some kind of label. By the year 2000, the number who said they had no religious affiliation had grown from 5% to 12%. That's from 1 in 20 to 1 in 8. And that's significant, but nothing compared to what has happened since. And this was a chart that was taken from a book, because as you see on it, the number had jumped to a quarter by the year 2010. The number today is about a third. It has changed that much since 2010. It's gotten to be such a big deal that NPR recently did a series on it. It's gone way past the kind of sociology of religion groupies. And a few weeks ago, I was actually interviewed by CBS News for a story that just came out. Now, the membership in traditional churches is dropping at a startling rate. And I want now to move to this one. Ponder this chart for a little bit, and you can't see, maybe you can see the small print, but I'll point it out to you. I often tell friends that, unfortunately, the Almighty does not speak to me directly. But spreadsheets and charts do. And one finds revelation where one can. This is the last only 8 years. Unfortunately, I couldn't get all the same time periods for these charts. But look at this. This is truly stunning. This is the change in membership of a number of religious denominations in 8 years. At the top is the Presbyterian Church that has lost 27% of its membership in 8 years. The United Church of Christ has lost almost 26%. Now, these are the people, by the way, that fit our demographic and with which we are most usually compared. United Church of Christ, the Episcopal Church, close to 20%, Evangelical Lutherans, about 18%, and so it goes, United Methodists. The UUA in the last 8 years has actually had a slight increase, although as you'll see later, the last few years, there's been a small decrease. You see that what isn't shown on here directly is actually the evangelical churches have lost membership as well in this period. We used to hear about how the megachurches and the evangelicals were growing. That actually has not been true for a generation. It has not been true for a generation. And you'll see a slight growth among Roman Catholics, and that is incredibly deceiving because the Roman Catholic Church today is a parade of really traditional white, like Italian and German and Polish Roman Catholics leaving the church by the millions and being replaced by Hispanics from Latin and Central America. So what looks like stability in the Roman Catholic Church is anything but. And you see that there's been some growth among Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons. I want to show you now something that came out recently. Has been shown here and there across the country, part of a program that we were featured in, done by CBS News. And can we cue that up?